What's going on, everyone? After the loss to the Philadelphia 76ers, the Los Angeles Lakers want to offer Myles Bridges a one-year, $5.2 million deal per Mike Trudell. Now, obviously, Myles Bridges would be a perfect complement, right? Great size, great length, 3-and-D, young. He might be the best potential player that is out there as far as fit-wise goes for the Lakers, right? Like, the Hornets in general probably have the best pieces for the Lakers as a total package. Like, if you get Myles Bridges, like a PJ Washington, Kelly Oubre, like they have Terry Rozier, guys like that. They have several pieces that they could essentially just, if the Hornets want to, get it down to the studs, basically just have LaMelo Ball and tank the season, hopefully get Victor Wembanyama, and now they're off to the races with Victor Wembanyama and LaMelo Ball for the next, 7+ years. So the Hornets are definitely a team to look out for in regards to, like, not even just the Lakers, but just teams in general, right? There are other teams that would probably love a Kelly Oubre, maybe even a Terry Rozier, PJ Washington, obviously, if he becomes available. I imagine there are several teams that would love to go and try to acquire him. And Myles Bridges, he is a real question mark for the Charlotte Hornets, right? They need to make a decision. Do they want to keep Bridges and pay Bridges, or do they want to just let him go and go to another team and let him be another team's problem and keep PJ Washington, right? Because the whole reason PJ Washington became in trade rumors and trade talks to begin with was because they didn't want to pay PJ Washington and pay Myles Bridges with Terry Rozier, Gordon Hayward, LaMelo Ball coming up, all that stuff. So they originally wanted to keep Myles Bridges and then trade PJ Washington, hopefully for some pieces, and then just kind of run with, Myles Bridges and LaMelo Ball, kind of that being the pieces for the future, and then kind of figure out what they want to do with Rozier and Hayward and guys like that. But then Myles Bridges went and did what he did and kind of, made the decision for Charlotte themselves. But since everything's been acquitted and he's basically, he pled no contest, which he very likely settled out of court, whatever that is, we don't know. But basically it got resolved and he can return to the NBA as far as we know. Now, there is always a possibility that he serves some sort of suspension, but I think if he was, the NBA probably would have already done that. Not just that, but since then there has been all kinds of other stuff that have unfolded, like the accuser. Now Myles Bridges has a restraining order against her because she tried to break into his place, and it's a whole mess behind the scenes that I don't really want to get into. But essentially, Myles Bridges is at this point basically clear of everything and can return to the game of basketball. But the stigma and just everything around Myles Bridges is a real problem. And what's going to happen if he comes, right? It's one of the reasons the Hornets haven't brought him back, because the Hornets could really use him. But to the Hornets, it's like, you let him sit this year, we're tanking, we're terrible anyway, so we'll figure out what we're going to do. He's a restricted free agent, so any contract, they could just match. So you would have to figure out, one, are the Hornets okay with just letting Myles Bridges go and, without recouping some assets? And if that's the case, then you're probably better off just doing a sign and trade and getting him for a reasonable contract long term, right? Because if you want to bring him in, because the issue is if you brought him in for $5.2 million, which I don't really even know how the Lakers can offer him $5.2 million. I don't think that that's correct, because they basically would be able to, that's taxpayer essentially. Like, I know that they could offer him like a vet minimum contract, but that's like $2.6 million for him. So I don't know how they'd be able to get the $5.2 million. So that doesn't really make sense to me. That something's not adding up there. Maybe it was just an oversight or something, or maybe it's just, there's a clause that I'm just not aware of. But I'm pretty sure that they can't sign him for more than like $2.5 million without doing some sort of trade. So maybe you could work out some sign and trade, right? Like if they don't want Myles Bridges and you're the Lakers, well, maybe you could go trade for Myles Bridges and give them like a second or two. Be like, hey, look, we're going to sign Myles Bridges regardless. You don't really want him. We'll give you like a second round for compensation. And then maybe in that case, maybe you sign him to, a multi-year, maybe, 2 years at, $5.9 million, and you trade like Kendrick Nunn and a second, and you go get Myles Bridges, right? like that could be something that Charlotte might be interested in. But again, it would come down to what does Charlotte want to do with Myles Bridges? Does Charlotte look at Myles Bridges and just kind of like, well, let's let the storm kind of die down a little bit. Let's get, and then we'll bring him in the offseason. We'll sign him to a new contract. He's not going to get the bag that he would have gotten. Like he would have gotten max money. This dude would have gotten paid. Now he's not going to get paid, right? And there are even questions. I mean, he hasn't played basketball in months, 5-6 months, something like that. So it might even be longer now. But the thing is like, is he going to be able to come in and get right into the swing of things immediately? Like defensively, yes, I imagine he would be. But shooting wise, stuff that's probably going to take some time to kind of get his legs back underneath him, get NBA ready. But regardless, like he would be a great acquisition for the Lakers. He's still very young. It's just, what does Charlotte want to do? Because you're almost better off trading for him, because even if you do sign him, like let's say you can sign him for $5.2 million, you're signing him to a 1 year to probably lose him if he's great for you, right? So like, why? What's the point? At that point, you might as well try to talk to the Hornets. Maybe if you really want to, maybe if you give up a first, maybe you could get PJ Washington, Myles Bridges, and like Kelly Oubre or Terry Rozier. Maybe they'd say, tell you what, we want to unload salary, take Terry Rozier. We'll give you Myles Bridges. We'll give you PJ Washington. Do a sign and, that way you get his bird right. Do a sign and trade. All that stuff, right? Whatever. Work it out. And maybe you get all three and give up a first. Because in that case, if you're the Lakers, that would make sense to give up a first, right? Because you're getting PJ Washington and you're getting Myles Bridges and you're getting Terry Rozier, who could really be beneficial and really help, but you're getting two young wing type players. And if you're the Hornets, it does kind of make sense for them, right? You got to make a decision with Bridges. Do you just again, tear it down to the studs, build around LaMelo Ball? Hopefully you get Victor Wembanyama. If you don't get Victor Wembanyama, maybe you get, Scoot Henderson or something like that. And there you go. Now you won the sweepstakes, or maybe you get one of the Thompson twins and you got basically a fresh new start. The only thing you got to get rid of left is, Gordon Hayward, but, his contract, he's got one more year after this year, something like that. So, it's not a big deal for you. You unload Terry Rozier's salary, you unload having to try to pay PJ Washington, having to pay Myles Bridges, you get a first round pick from the Lakers that may or may not be a lottery pick, and you're off to the races. Like that might be something that makes sense for both teams. Again, it comes down to what does Charlotte want to do? Is Charlotte okay with just letting Myles Bridges walk? Because if that's the case, I'm sure there are other teams that would pay, that would offer Bridges a contract. There's got to be something going on behind the scenes, right? Like, again, it's just kind of a rumor. Mike Trudell, I don't know. Again, it seems a little off to me. Like, the money doesn't really make sense. And, maybe this is something, murmurs he's heard. But you would think that, like, if they were going to make an offer, that it would have already been made, and why haven't other teams made that offer? Maybe they're worried, again, about a suspension, but he's kind of already served a suspension, right? He's been out of the league so long, even after, he got the whole court proceedings and everything resolved. He still hasn't played and hasn't came back or anything like that. And there's still a lot of up in the air with what's going on. So, I don't know. Maybe he just never comes back to the league. That's always a possibility too. But, look, I know some people are going to look at it as like, why would you want this kind of person and what he did on the team and all that stuff, but you got to be able to separate the art from the artist. Like that's something I've talked about, right? Like you don't have to like Myles Bridges as a person, right? You don't have to like Myles Bridges and his character, or condone what he did, or like anything about him. You can just, what does he do for the game of basketball? Like I don't need his autograph, I'm not gonna go be buddies with him and drink on the weekends. Like no, like you're a basketball player. You still need to make a living. You still need to work. You still need to do all that stuff. Okay, well, if it's in the game of basketball and he could put points and play defense and help the Lakers win, then I don't care about it. Like everything else is for the courts and things like that to decide. I have no involvement with that. Like that got resolved. I don't have to like him as a person. I care less about him. I care about can he go out and get me 20 and, lock down the other player? Yes, he can. Okay, cool. That's all I care about, So it just comes down to what do the Lakers want? Would there be a little backlash? Maybe. I don't really think so. I think you're going to have some, just the voice of public opinion, but the Lakers don't care about that, and nor should they. If they think Myles Bridges is going to come in and be the piece and the cog that they need to kind of turn this team around, then, go get him, right? They're trying to get Cam Reddish and all this other stuff. Myles Bridges if you have any opportunity to get Myles Bridges, you got to go get Myles Bridges. Take a flyer on him. Because, one, he's not going to cost a lot, too. So it's a low risk, high reward type play. Worst case scenario, he's never had problems on the basketball court. It was just, in his personal love life. So as long as he can get that figured out and, keep his hands to himself, and just play the game of basketball, then I think it's fine. If you're the Lakers, pick him up. Go get him. Like, the Lakers need a 6'8", 250, whatever he is, type wing player that can play multiple positions, can guard multiple positions, can be a 3-and-D guy, a legit 3-and-D guy, a guy that can give you 20 on any given night, that can guard the best player on the other team. I mean, he's exactly what the Lakers need. And you'd still have like Russell Westbrook and all your first round picks, and you'd still have, Patrick Beverley, Kendrick Nunn, and all your first round picks. So you could go get Myles Bridges and then go get, 2 or 3 other players. Maybe you go get Cam Reddish. Now you have Bridges and Reddish as your big forwards for the next, 7 years. Like, that's a pretty good spot for the Lakers to be in, right? And both of these guys can play both Reddish and Myles Bridges can both play multiple wing positions. They can play both forward spots. It's a pretty good spot to be in, and I'm all for that either way. But anyway, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass the question on to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. What do you think? Do you think the Lakers should get him, go after him, make an offer? What do you have to lose? Worst case, Hornets match. Or do you think, because my problem is too, my concern is too, is that, like, if the offer's too low, the Hornets might just match just to match, right? You sign them to a 1-year, $5.2 million deal. Like, if you're the Hornets, you might as well match that, and then just, like, sit them at home, eat the $5 million, and then figure out what you're going to do with them. Like, that's something else that could happen too. So it comes down to what do the Hornets want? Do the Hornets want to just let him go and are okay with it or not? But anyway, again, however you feel, I'd love your thoughts and opinions. So let me know down in the comment section below.